Everyone, let's jump right into this explainer. Today we're decoding the relentless, honestly kind of borderline obsessive psychological preparation of the greatest Olympian of all time, Michael Phelps. We're not just going to look at the medals, right? We're going to break down exactly how he built this invincible mindset, step by step, and how that very same mindset eventually pushed him into the fight of his life outside the pool.
Just to wrap our heads around the sheer scale of his dominance, think about this number for a second. 23. 23 Olympic gold medals. Out of 30 Olympic races he ever swam, he medaled in 28 of them. To put that into perspective, if Michael Phelps were literally his own country, he'd have the third most swimming medals in history. No way, right? It's just, he achieved numbers that no human had ever touched, and realistically, we might never see numbers like that again.
Now, what's really interesting about this quote is how it sets the tone right out of the gate. I hate to lose more than I enjoy winning. Phelps wasn't just out there chasing the thrill of victory, he was literally running away from the agony of defeat. This establishes him as a total anomaly. He was driven by this deep-seated hatred of losing. To him, second place just meant you lost. And that extreme discomfort with anything short of absolute perfection, that was his core fuel. All right, let's look at Section 1, Weaponizing Restlessness, the origin. To really understand the champion, we first have to look back at the restless 10-year-old kid who literally could not sit still in class. Before he was a global icon, he was just a boy diagnosed with ADHD, bouncing off the walls, leaning way back in his chair, leaving dents on the floor, and pretty much constantly getting sent to the principal's office.
And this brilliantly illustrates the divide. See, society, and specifically a middle school teacher at the time, looked at all that restlessness and labeled it a failure. They flat out told him he was a distraction destined to fail. But Phelps, he viewed it completely differently. He took the sting of being doubted, combined it with the boundless energy of his ADHD, and he weaponized it. The water became his escape. Instead of a distraction, he turned that restlessness into a total superpower, just limitless fuel in the pool.
Moving on to Section 2, the crucible of obsession, the how. Obviously, all that limitless fuel needed direction, right? Enter Bob Bowman. He was Phelps's coach and essentially a father figure who guided him for over 2 decades. Together, they built this completely unbeatable foundation through a grueling, highly specific process. Bowman stripped Phelps's stroke all the way down to the basics when he was just 11 years old. He would repeatedly kick him out of practice until every single technical detail was absolutely perfect. Which brings us to this mind-blowing number. 0. 0. That is the exact number of days off Michael Phelps took over a 6-year stretch. Think about that. He worked through every single Sunday, every Christmas, every birthday, the whole shebang. Why? Well, in swimming, the thinking goes that taking 1 day off sets you back 2 days. So he figured out that by training every single day while his competitors rested, he was compounding his greatness in a way literally no one else on the planet could match.
So if you want to know what greatness actually looks like on a daily basis, check out this timeline. Honestly, it's almost aggressively boring. Wake up, eat a massive breakfast, swim for 2 hours, sleep, wake up, eat again, swim for another 2 hours, go to bed. Wash, rinse, repeat. Every single day. For 6 years. What you should take away here is that greatness isn't some magic trick. It's really just a bunch of small, repetitive things done exceptionally well over a very long period of time.
But wait, it wasn't just repetitive. It was chaotic by design. Bowman deliberately ran what you could pretty much only call psychotic stress tests during training. I'm talking about stepping on Phelps's goggles to break them right before a swim, forcing him to swim in ripped suits, pushing him through these extreme 10,000-meter workouts, lots of intense screaming. It was wild. The whole goal was to create so much adversity in practice that when the bright lights and extreme pressure of the actual Olympics arrived, it would honestly just feel manageable. Let's move to Section 3, controlling the controllables, the mindset, and see how this all builds together. Because physical prep is one thing, but Phelps mastered high-stakes pressure by focusing strictly on what he called controlling the controllables. He absolutely refused to waste energy worrying about his competitors. Instead, he visualized every possible outcome so vividly that reality could just never catch him off guard. Get this, every day for 6 months leading up to a major meet, Phelps would lie in bed and play this rule of 3 mental tape. Tape 1 was the perfect race, right down to the exact stroke count. Tape 2, the disaster scenario, getting touched out by 100th of a second. And tape 3 was the what-if scenario, like what if my suit rips? What if my goggles break? By mentally experiencing these outcomes thousands of times, he ensured his emotions stayed perfectly in check when the unexpected inevitably happened. So the crucial point is, how does this actually play out in the real world?
Let's flash forward to the 2008 Beijing Olympics, the 200-meter butterfly final, literally the biggest stage on Earth. As soon as Phelps dives off the blocks, his goggles instantly fill completely with water. He is swimming totally blind at the Olympic finals. No way, right?
Now, most athletes would absolutely panic, but Phelps, he had already visualized this exact disaster scenario. He knew he couldn't stop and fix them, so he controlled the controllables. He relied entirely on the stroke counts that were so deeply ingrained in him during all those grueling practices. He knew his exact stroke count per length, so he just started counting in his head. 16, 17, 18, 19, 20.
And the result? Despite this massive, unexpected adversity, his obsessive preparation secured him the gold medal. Oh, and he broke the world record while he was at it, completely blind. It's absolute proof that controlling the controllables and preparing for disaster, it undeniably works.
But this explainer wouldn't be complete if we just stopped at the finish line. We have to pivot and ask a much harder question. What happens when the medals stop? Because, as we're about to see, that invincible shark persona in the water actually masked a deeply, deeply vulnerable human being outside of it.
Which brings us to Section 4, Championing Mental Health, the Evolution. This introduces the darkest phase of his post-Olympic life, the evolution from athlete to advocate. Because it turns out that the very same mindset that made Michael Phelps a champion in the water, it became his absolute greatest threat on dry land.
Following the 2012 Olympics, things got incredibly dark. To win those gold medals, Phelps had treated himself as a swimming machine. He intensely compartmentalized every negative emotion, fear, and pressure. He just shoved it all down so it wouldn't mess with his races. But treating yourself like a machine, it eventually strips you of your humanity. That suppressed emotion erupted into severe depression, leaving him feeling totally alone and completely stripped of his identity.
In the past, Phelps's only coping mechanism for anger was literally screaming underwater during practice where no one could hear him. But today, he takes a much more grounded approach. He and his family practice what they call the lion breath. It involves taking a massive, deep breath in and just roaring out loud. It physically forces your shoulders to drop and safely releases heavy emotions instead of carrying them around all day. It's an incredible tool for actually feeling big emotions rather than just hiding them.
And beyond the lion breath, Phelps relies on a very actionable self-care checklist every single day to survive and thrive. He goes to therapy, participates in men's support groups, and regulates his nervous system using cold tubs and infrared saunas. But most importantly, he's fully embraced vulnerability. He realized that seeing a therapist and admitting it is okay not to be okay literally saved his life. Seeking help wasn't a weakness. For him, it was the ultimate strength.
When you look at his life in totality, it really breaks down into two distinct phases. Phase 1 was all about winning medals, obsessing over shaving off hundredths of a second in the pool. But Phase 2? That's about saving lives, using his massive platform to destigmatize mental health and prevent suicide. Phelps himself had this profound realization. Saving even one single life by sharing his story is 1,000 times better than winning an Olympic gold medal.
So I want to leave you with this final thought. We've seen Phelps's obsessive 6-year streak without a single day off, and we've seen the daily self-care checklist he uses today to protect his mental health. If you want to achieve greatness, in whatever field that is for you, are your daily habits truly aligned with the goals you want to accomplish? Because as Michael Phelps's journey proves, greatness isn't about what you dream of doing. It's entirely about what you are willing to prepare for every single day.